All right, 3 o'clock chat here. The Indiana Pacers got bad news today. Tyrese Halliburton suffered a torn Achilles in yesterday's Game 7 of the NBA Finals. The injury occurred with 4:55 remaining in the first quarter. The Thunder win the championship. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander finishes off an amazing year. League MVP, scoring title, and Finals MVP. The draft is coming up on Wednesday. The Trailblazers will have pick number 11 in the first round. Francis Williams will join me today at 4:20 to preview the draft. Our coverage on Wednesday will kick off at 3 from Dr. Jax. Travis Demers and Francis Williams will take over at 4:30 and go throughout the entire first round. Join the Trailblazers for their block party draft edition from the Rose Quarter campus. DJ OG1 will be bumping music, face painting, blow-up games, and beer sampling at Dr. Jax. You can stop by and enter your chance to win a Trailblazers prize pack, 4 Coors Light silver seats, autographed Scoot Henderson jersey, and a signed Blazer pennant. Rip City Drive with Chad Doings coming up now.
It's time for the Rip City Drive, brought to you by Goldberg Jones. Divorce for Men. Call 1-800-DIVORCE. Featuring the crazy and often irrational longtime Portland radio vet, Chad Doing.
And Sykes on the ground to second. The flip to the shortstop, Milam. On to first, double play. And the Elite Eighth for LSU. The Tigers have their 8th Men's College World Series championship. LSU, your national baseball champions, with a 5-3 win over Coastal Carolina.
Shovels left wing dub, open, strokes a 3, in and out, and back in again. Cha-ching, it's under Moneyball. Timeout, Pacers. Let them hear it, Loud City. Shea now given it, 8 to shoot. Steps back, fires, angle right, rainbow 3 is on the way. Cha-ching, it's under Moneyball. Is Shea like a shark smelling blood in the water? He may be, baby. 25 now, 84-68, Thunder by 16. Thunder fans feel this moment. The uncommon young team proves to be unstoppable. It's over at Paycom Center. Final in Game 7, the Thunder 103, the Pacers 91. A dream realized. The storybook season is complete. The final chapter reads, the Oklahoma City Thunder are the 2025 NBA champions.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Chad Doing starts now.
All right, I'm looking forward to the show today, my friends. Chad Doing here, Michael Shacker, Rip City Drive. The NBA draft is coming up on Wednesday. Francis Williams, analyst for your Portland Trailblazers, is going to join the show coming up at 4:20. He's going to be a part of our coverage on Wednesday night. He'll be with Travis Demers from 4:30 all the way up through the end of the first round of Joe Cronin's press conference. He's really tuned in to the college players, some of the blue chippers and other guys who are going to be available, of course, when the Trailblazers are selecting. So we'll talk with him at 4:20. I really want to zero in on the draft now that the NBA Finals is over. And to recap the finals, to discuss and focus on the Kevin Durant trade and the big storyline that we're going to be looking at this offseason with the draft on Wednesday and free agency shortly thereafter, Brad Bakken of CBS Sports is going to join the show at 5:20. Now, if you would like to reach out to me, you can do so. 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. You can find me on social media at Chad and Rip City. You can text me directly to my phone, 360-281-5473. However you want to do it is fine by me. 503-248-0620, the telephone number here to the show, the Rip City Drive. Now, I do want to remind you of what we have coming up on Wednesday. We've got our draft coverage live from Dr. Jax starting at 3 o'clock. Rip City Drive goes from 3 until 4:30 from Dr. Jax, and then Travis Demers and Francis Williams will take over at 4:30 at Dr. Jax all the way through the end of the first round of Joe Cronin's press conference. The Trailblazers are also going to kick off the summertime with a block party draft edition. So right there at the Rose Quarter Commons, right there where Dr. Jax is at, they'll have DJ OG1 out there. I think the Rip City Remix are going to be on hand. They're going to have some blow-up games for the kids, face painting. So if you'd like to get a pinwheel on your mug, you may do so. They're also going to have a beer sampling, including Rocky Mountain Refreshing Coors Light at Dr. Jax. And it's going to be a good time. Now, we've got a sweet prize pack put together, and I would like to thank myself for being a part of putting this together because I think it's going to be a good one for you. If you stop by, you can enter to win at the iHeart tent, a prize pack that includes 4 Coors Light Silver Seats to an upcoming game this season. We've got a authentic Scoot Henderson jersey that's been autographed and a Blazers signed pennant. So you get 3 delicious items by stopping by and entering for your chance to win. That's all going to be happening on Wednesday over at the Rose Quarter Commons, the Blazers Block Party Draft Edition, with coverage starting at 3 all the way up until, my guess would be 9 o'clock. Whenever the first round is over and whenever Joe Cronin does his press conference. And the Trailblazers, just make a little note, they are selecting with pick number 11 in the first round, barring any trades. Of course, we all want trades. We all want movement. We want player movement, and that's pretty exciting. So that's what's coming up this week. And then Thursday, I am going to, because I'm a man of the people, and so is Michael Shacker, we're going to pull a little double duty for you. I'm going to be back in here on Thursday morning for a 2-hour special AM edition of the Rip City Drive to focus in on the draft and talk Trailblazers. Travis Demers will make a contribution. Chris Burkhart will be involved. Our Trailblazer insider, Sean Hyken, will be a part of that. So you're going to get 5 hours of the Chad on Thursday. My apologies ahead of time. But a 7 to 9 a.m. Special show on Thursday. So there you have it. We got Wednesday covered. We got Thursday morning covered and Thursday afternoon. And you can stop by the block party to enter our Trailblazers prize pack with the Coors Light Silver Seats, the autographed Scoot Henderson jersey, and the signed Blazers pennant. Now, yesterday was kind of weird. I went up to Longview yesterday. Now, how many of you knew, raise your hand, if you knew that Longview had a country club? I had no idea. I did not know that, but I took a drive up to Longview yesterday to do a practice round at Longview Country Club. Dwight Janes, the Godfather, his wife Nancy and I are golfing partners, and we are branching out to find more couples Chapmans to play in. And they're going to have one next weekend up at Longview Country Club. So we went up there to do a practice round to get a feel for the course. I'd never played it before. Praise the good Lord above that we did a practice round because that course is very challenging, especially the front 9. They've got some circus-type holes on a par 3. There's a very difficult par 4. It's beautiful up there. Like, it's spectacular in terms of beauty. And the weather, after being basically garbage on Friday and Saturday, it turned out to be a very nice afternoon. The unfortunate part is, so I was DVRing because I knew I would get home after the first quarter started of Game 7. And so I was, I had the game on record so I could watch it or start watching it when I got home. But, of course, I got the news flash across my phone that with 4:55 left in the first quarter, that Tyrese Halliburton had left the game with an injury. I didn't know what type of injury it was, but my mind immediately thought, well, he ruptured his Achilles because he had the calf strain, he was playing through it, and he went down with the injury. And it was a good way to ruin a Game 7 of the NBA Finals. I have no idea how Oklahoma City was trailing by a point at halftime. I mean, credit the Pacers for putting up the type of fight they did. But it's just unfortunate that the game was marred by that type of injury. And now we're seeing the NBA players get littered with Achilles injuries all over the place. And I want to find out why. What's the root cause of that? And we'll talk about that with Brad Bakken at 5:20, but I hated seeing Halliburton go down. But let me ask you a question. Is there any way you wouldn't play in that Game 7 if you were Tyrese Halliburton? You've got a calf strain. You know that your Achilles could be at risk. How do you say no and not play in that game when you've worked your entire life, hours upon hours upon hours, so many games, all the practice time, all the weight room, everything that you do, all the training, all the times on the playground, in the driveway, in the gym, you name it. And you're going to get to that point where you're 48 minutes away from a championship, you're in the NBA Finals, you're living your dream, and you're not going to play because of risk? I just don't think that's possible. So I credit Halliburton for going out there and trying to get it done for his team. I mean, he was their leader. and he was on an all-time heater with clutch shot making in the NBA postseason. How do you say no? I better rest. I don't want to put myself at risk. How are you going to sell that one to your teammates? How do you sell that to the fans? More importantly, how do you look in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm not going to give it a go in Game 6 or Game 7. I've gotten this far. I've got a chance to win an NBA championship, but I don't want to risk it. You got to go. But he paid the ultimate price, and that was a painful injury to see. I think we all knew what it was as soon as it happened. We didn't need the report or the imaging scan with confirmation. We knew what it was. It was an Achilles, and it looked awful. And I felt bad for Halliburton, who was on an all-time heater in the postseason. And then after that, second half, the Thunder just opened it up. They started making threes. They forced a variety of different turnovers. They cranked up the pressure, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander took over, not just with his scoring and his points, but his playmaking. I thought he was tremendous. And the Oklahoma City Thunder cap off a dominant year in the way that it should have been done with a championship. They got pushed to 7, but at home, they got the job done. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander now joins the rarefied air of being one of just a few players to have league MVP, finals MVP, and scoring title all in the same year. But he was special. And that Thunder defense is stifling. They get up on you. Their length, their pressure, it's nonstop. And they speed up your process, and before you know it, you're turning it over, and that's when they make you pay because they get out and run, they get easy buckets, and they can put a big run on you in a heartbeat. And that's exactly what happened there in the third quarter. So credit the Thunder for their play, but that was a brutal injury. Not good.
Halliburton falls down. He looks hurt. Here comes SGA the other way. Inside, and Williams throws it down. Halliburton's hurt right away when he fell. Of course, that strained calf. He's in pain, so emotional. It's the right calf right away. He knew he was in trouble. Oh, you get in a situation like this, you're just sick to your stomach for the young man.
You know, I've seen a lot of people asking the question today, how is the 2025 NBA Finals going to be remembered? Well, I think it's pretty simple. The Halliburton injury. That's how we're going to remember and catalog this year's finals. And if you look back, and this is probably the case for you, but I have all the finals I remember for a particular play. Like in 2016, it was the Kyrie shot over Steph Curry. The Cavs won in 7. In 1987, it was the Magic hook shot game where he hit the big hook shot over Kevin McHale in Game 4, and the Lakers go on to win the championship. I mean, you can look back at the finals, like 2010, the Ron Artest shot, where he put up the big 3 when no one wanted him to shoot it after Kobe passed him the ball, and he put it up and it went in. That's how we'll catalog it, and I'll remember this year's final because of the injury to Halliburton. But that's not to take anything away from Oklahoma City. They are a deserving champion. They play together. They play as a unit, and I respect the way they ball. And we're going to hear from some of them next. All right, Rip City Drive. Appreciate your time on this Monday. I hope you're having a spectacular day. We're going to have good weather this week, which is nice. Francis Williams talking draft at 4:20, and Brad Botkin on the finals on the Kevin Durant trade. He'll join the show at 5:20 here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, this is a deep cut right here from Radio, Jack and Jill. And the man behind Radio, of course, is Ray Parker Jr. Jill! It's a great song. All right, got this message here from my guy on X. He says, I think it's because of the changes in shoe design. I've been trying to, just wrap my mind around these Achilles injuries in the NBA. Horrifying, horrible. And back in the day, I mean, the technology and the changes in medicine are helping. But, 30 years ago, if you suffered a ruptured Achilles, you were pretty much done. Or if you did come back, you weren't going to be anywhere remotely close to the player that you were. Now, this is changing over a period of time where the treatment is getting better, the procedures are getting better, and players are able to come back. But you're still not going to be the same player. It's a devastating injury for an NBA player. I don't know enough to know if shoe design could be, cause or part of the cause of the injuries. I've always thought it was this, and this goes back, heck, to when I was a kid or 25, 30 years ago when I really started diving into the NBA. How long has that been? Mid-'80s. How old was I? How old am I now? So more like 40 years ago. I always forget how old I am until I think about it. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm that old. So if you go back like 30 to 40 years, and I know this from, covering the NBA and talking to different guys, different players, older players who are retired. But let's just put it this way. Clyde Drexler or Terry Porter or Jerome Kersey, the guys that we know here in town and the guys of that era, when the offseason would hit, they weren't in the gym playing basketball around the clock. They weren't meeting up down in L.A. They weren't going to UCLA. They weren't playing basketball at all points during the summertime. They would get away from the game, and they would find other activities, whether it be bike riding or hiking, golf, you name it, they would find other activities to get involved in. And when I grew up, I mean, obviously I had sports that I preferred over other ones, but a lot of kids were playing a variety of different sports. I played basketball, baseball, soccer. I wanted to play football, but I was a little bit undersized because I was an August baby and started school when I was 5. But the point being is that I played in a bunch of different sports. And I would imagine a lot of you did the same thing, at least for those of you who are around my age. Well, that certainly has changed over the course of time where, kids now are focusing in more on one sport, or they're being identified as a talent in one particular sport, and then they're getting involved in their schools' functions for that sport. They're getting into specialized travel ball where they can play that sport year-round. And I think what's happened with NBA players now, this particular generation, as soon as they're born and they gravitate towards basketball, they're playing basketball at a young age. They're getting plugged into AAU ball. They're playing in high school. They're playing in college. They're playing AAU ball. And more importantly, during the offseason, they're training and playing more basketball. So I would think part of it would come from the fact that you're playing not multiple sports, but one particular sport. And you know how basketball works with the amount of running and the amount of pounding on the body, the start and stop type movement. I mean, these guys are in the gym playing basketball constantly. So they're not getting away from the game and allowing their body a chance to heal and to recuperate and rest. And they're putting a lot of stress on the joints, their tendons, their ligaments, their connective tissue. And so I think that definitely has something to do with it. Now, one thing that Brad will dive into is not just the fatigue that comes from playing that sport year-round with very little rest, but now the way the game is played in the NBA is totally different. And most of it comes from pace and from spacing. Guys are traveling around throughout the course of the year on the floor much more than they ever have because of the pacing and because of the spacing on the floor. I mean, you've got to get up and down, a lot of start and stop. You've got to get out to the corner to cover the three-point line. And so I think all of these things are a contributing factor as to why we're seeing guys go down with that type of injury. And I think we all know this. It's pretty obvious. But, when your body is fatigued and broken down and you don't give it the proper amount of rest and recuperation time, you're going to put yourself at risk of injury, or you're at a greater risk of injury. And that's the bottom line. And I just hated seeing Tyrese Halliburton go down. Now, after the game, before the report came out today, Rick was asked about Tyrese and the injury.
I'm not talking about his injury. I'm not giving you. I have no idea. I haven't heard anything about a diagnosis or anything.
Just at halftime, did he say anything to the team and the way you guys kept?
He was in the locker room, and he was very much a part of a group that believed that they could do this.
All right, there's Coach Carlisle. Don't worry, Coach. You don't need to talk about it. We don't need the scan or any report. We knew what it was. You knew what it was. Tyrese knew what it was. We all knew what it was. Just like we knew with Jason Tatum. It sucks. As soon as he went down, it's like, that's not good. And unfortunately, when you get to Game 7 and you come up 24 minutes short of a title, it hurts.
Yeah, I told these guys coming into this that, there's no feel-good scenario when you get to the finals and are unable to get it done. And it really hurts on the one hand. On the other hand, this team has given all of Pacer Nation something to be very proud of.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, the Pacers, they have nothing to be ashamed of. What a run that was through the postseason. If you would have told me before the postseason, dude, Indiana's going to the finals, I would have laughed at you. No, they're not. They're not going to the finals. The Pacers are not going to go there. Where's the star power? They're not going to be able to defend well enough. I know that they're a difficult matchup because of their pacing and how they put pressure on you, but they're not getting to the finals. Come on. That's exactly what I would have said. I would have laughed it off like it was total nonsense. And yet there they were pushing the Thunder, who are by far the best team in the NBA, to a Game 7. And somehow leading by a point at halftime at Oklahoma City after Halliburton went down with 4:55 left in the first quarter. I mean, Rick Carlisle coached his ass off. Great job by Coach Carlisle. Nothing but respect for him. And that team was a lot of fun to watch. Very easy to root for. Halliburton was on an all-time heater. Big shot after big shot after big shot in the postseason, to the point where it almost became comical. So I love the Pacers, man. Credit to them for that run. It was special. But the Thunder, with their defense, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, with the relentless pressure they put on you, and they opened it up in the second half and got the job done. And their coach, Mark Daigneault, talked about what makes this group special.
They behave like champions. They compete like champions. They root for each other's success, which is rare in professional sports. I've said it many times. I'm going to say it one more time. This is an uncommon team, and now they're champions.
There you go. High praise from Coach Daigneault as Oklahoma City gets the title. And for Sam Presti, do you think he thought that his first title there in Oklahoma City would come 13 years after their first trip to the NBA Finals, when they had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden? Think about how long that took and the way they had to rebuild the entire franchise. And now he's got enough first-round picks to power the franchise moving into the next 200 years. I mean, that's a lot of draft picks. Sam Presti's done a heck of a job. And he talked about the team being champs.
Well, the first thing is Oklahoma has a true team and not just a winner. These guys represent all that's good. At a young age, they prioritize winning, they prioritize sacrifice, and this just kind of unfolded very quickly. But you have to give the credit to the guys, and we're super grateful to have these guys representing us.
Yeah. Sam Presti gets the championship, but a heck of a team together, and did a great job with his wheeling and dealing to get the picks necessary to put that team together. Now, the one guy that I'm surprised by, that I've got to give props to, that I was dead wrong about, is Chet Holmgren, the center out of Gonzaga. I thought the idea of him being drafted in the top 3 was a total joke. American-born white big, skinny as a rail, no strength. There's no way he can hold up and get the job done. Thought he was going to be pushed around. I thought he was going to be a joke, but so far he's been a great pro. And even though he's got things to work on, and I think continuing to get stronger and maybe next year be a more reliable offensive threat down the stretch of some of these games as they get deeper into the postseason. I mean, his defense was great. He was on top of things yesterday with the block shots. But what surprises me the most about Chet, one, he's shown some inner toughness to overcome injury, to get back on the floor. I credit him for that. But also his foot speed. He does not look like a guy that can move, but yet he can move. And what makes him so valuable with the type of length that he has is the ability to get out and contest at the three-point line. So what I'm trying to say is that I was dead wrong about Chet. And when you combine him with Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the remarkable depth that they have, you see the team that you see. And for Chet, he talked about all the different things he had to overcome to experience that moment last night to become an NBA champion.
I've been through so much personally this year, not only the hip, but other things playing too. I'm proud of these guys for holding it down while I was out. I'm proud of myself for never quitting. Broken bones, bruises, it's all temporary, but this is forever. Let's go.
And I really think that's the best part about being a champ and finally getting to that level and winning a title. It lasts forever. No one can ever take it away from you. You're always going to be remembered as an NBA champion. That sticks with you from now until the end of time. And that's a beautiful thing. That's what I love about titles. Once your team or your person gets that championship, no one can ever take it away. Now, one guy that I thought was critical throughout the course of the postseason, and I think we all knew that when they went out and got this guy was going to be a big difference maker for the squad, but Alex Caruso. Not to be confused for David Caruso, as I often do, but Alex Caruso was, I think we all knew when they picked him up, like, wow, the Thunder got Caruso. Very good defender, more experience on this roster because the majority of guys around him are young. He had won a title before with the Lakers in the bubble. Now this is an opportunity where he could go out and get a real championship. But for Caruso, just being the captain of the bench unit, tough defense, playmaking, leadership, I mean, he brought it all. And he talked about the process of getting to this point and winning a championship with Oklahoma City.
It's been unpredictable. There's been a lot of ups and downs. I've found success, failures, all that stuff on the way. I've had people that supported me, my mom and dad, my sisters, my brother-in-law, my fiance, her family, like different paths in the road. Everyone supported me and just kept me focused. And then, the Thunder, obviously, Sam and Clay, they had the belief to bring me here and be a part of something special. And special is what we were.
There's no question. Very, very special. Love Caruso. Team guy, defender, playmaker. He can do it all. And finally, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, league MVP, finals MVP, scoring champ, talked about winning the finals.
A lot of hard work, a lot of hours in the gym. This isn't just a win for me. This is a win for my family. This is a win for my friends. This is a win for everybody that was in my corner growing up. This is a win for the fans. The best fans in the world. Love you guys.
All right, Shai Gilgeous. Man, credit to him. He had a big Game 7. Playmaking was there, setting up his teammates, getting to his spots, scoring points. Very strong in the second half. And the Thunder get it done. And now think back to the teams. Denver a couple of years ago, we thought that team's going to repeat. They did not. Last year, Boston. They were stacked. We thought they would repeat. They did not. And now I look at the Thunder, and with the youth on their roster and the way they play defense, and they got the MVP, like they are positioned nicely to come out and be strong next year. And I've seen this throughout the course of time with teams. Once you get over the hump and get that first championship, and you know what it takes to get there, those type of teams become even more dangerous. But the beauty of Oklahoma City is that, one, they're a great defensive team, which allows them to get through stretches of the NBA season where your offense is not there, you don't have your best stuff, but you can lean on the defense to get stops and you still, win games. It's critical. But with their youth, and they're going to continue to grow and get better, and with their defense, they're definitely a threat to go back-to-back. There's no question about it. And based on what I saw from the Pacers and the Thunder, I mean, if I'm the Blazers, I just continue to go out and collect as many two-way, long, athletic guys as they possibly can. I don't want a guy on the roster if he can't defend. Just continue to bring in two-way players, guys with length, guys who can defend, because I would love to see a squad like that here in Portland where, your team takes the floor and there's no weak spot on the floor. I mean, the Thunder did not have a weak link defensively. There was no position you could attack them for because they were so locked in. Their weakest defender was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP. But he can defend, and he's not a minus on that end of the floor. So if I'm the Blazers, just continue to load up on long, athletic wings who are defensive-minded. And you put that type of team out there on the floor, you can win games. It's unbelievable. So credit to the Thunder, props to the Pacers. Unfortunately for Indiana, I mean, the Eastern Conference is even more wide open today than it was, going into the game yesterday. Boston, may have kind of an off year because Tatum went down with the Achilles injury. And now Indiana, with no Tyrese Haliburton next year, they're not going to be the same. Maybe it will be the Knicks year next year to finally get to the finals. It's tough. Tough to see the injuries. But Oklahoma City is well positioned with their youth, their roster, and all the different draft picks that Sam Presti has. He's got the ability to continue to shape the roster, add to the roster, replace guys who might want to get paid or go elsewhere because he's got the draft picks to do it. All right, we'll keep things rolling. When we come back, we'll dive into Kevin Durant, the big trade that went down this weekend. I think it's the perfect pairing in terms of team and what they needed, and the Rockets going out to get Kevin Durant. Francis Williams talking draft at 4:20. Brad Bakken will join me at 5:20. I appreciate your time. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, we got to go out to the phones. I think my man Tony and Boring is out there. You know, he predicted before the playoffs kicked off that he thought the Pacers would win the NBA Finals in 7 games. He reminded me of that prediction yesterday, and he almost nailed the freaking thing. But unfortunately, the Pacers suffered that horrific injury to Tyrese Halliburton. Tony and Boring's out there. What's up, Tony? You almost nailed it, man.
Dude, so close. On my way to the dentist for some preventative maintenance. Yeah, dude, that was devastating. Just devastating to watch him. Like, and he looked back. Like, where's the sniper? Oh, he's not there. Oh, it's the Achilles. You know, it's like he knew it. He's just like, no, and it's just brutal.
I mean, Tony, was there any doubt in your mind when you saw him go down what the injury was? It was pretty obvious, wasn't it?
My heart kind of like sank. Like, I think most people knew, but man, they really had a good close up. Like, you see the whole leg like shift, you know, where it went right when it snapped. So it's kind of gruesome in that regard.
But wouldn't you do the same thing? Like, if you knew that your team was 48 minutes away from a championship and you were putting yourself at risk, you would play in that game, wouldn't you?
You got to do it. Yeah. I haven't heard anybody fault him for it. Like, everybody's doing it. It just sucks. But hey, that's why we don't bet on sports. I mean, I was that close, but you know, I'm not a gambler, thank goodness. But you know, you just don't know, man. But I really enjoyed the NBA playoffs this year. Maybe people didn't, but I don't know. I think I'm more of a purist, and I loved it all the way. You know, like when we're talking Ant-Man and going against LeBron. I mean, there's some good storylines in the Knicks. Like, it was just absolute fun. I mean, there's that like 1 or 2 weeks where the Blazers are, you know, not making it, and you're just like, I don't care, blah blah. And then, you know, and then they get going, and you get sucked in, and you're like, yep, you know what, screw the Blazers. I'm a basketball fan first, and you know, their time will come eventually someday. But no, I was just had a good time watching the Bulls.
No doubt. And hey, dude, Karate Kid Legends was awesome. You were right. You saw it before I did. You told me it was great. I loved it.
Dude, that was really pleasing to see. They did. I mean, it's just the same old story, but you know, you got to like do it right. And I think they really did it right and made it entertaining. And loved the kicker at the end. And obviously, looks like we're going to be in for another installment, from what I could tell.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Yeah, the ending was perfect. The ending, I don't want to give it away, but it was a perfect ending to the movie. A total surprise and very happy about it.
For sure. All right, well, next is football. I got to decide, am I going to invest another $400 in the Chicago Bears this year?
Yes.
I probably am because of all the promise, but I don't know. I'm sure I'll be disappointed.
I don't think so, man. I think you got a lot of things to be excited about. That's my man, Tony and Boring. Well, you know what? Since you called, Tony, let me give you a little treat. Your quarterback is figuring things out real quick, Caleb Williams. Like, if you play for the Bears, who do you want to beat more than anyone? Well, it'd be the Packers, right? Well, take a listen to Caleb Williams saying that Packer fans suck, and he talks about being 1-0 at Lambeau. It's pretty sweet.
I played at Green Bay. I mean, they suck, but it was after the game, after we won at Lambeau, 1-0 at Lambeau right now. So obviously trying to do the Lambeau leap, and we actually tried to jump in the crowd where our fans were, and they start throwing everything at you, they push you off, and the Lambeau leap, it's a real leap. It's not a little baby jump. You actually have to high jump basically, and then they're pushing you, mushing your face. I mean, that was probably that. And then I had one today. I was actually in a car, and I got ran down for 6 blocks in the car. So, yeah, that was fun.
All right, there's Caleb Williams. It's very simple. Win at Lambeau, talk mad trash about the Packers, and you're going to fit in just fine. And the good thing about the Bears now with their new coach, they appear to be giving Caleb Williams the support that was necessary. Their big problem is they kept the same coach after they got Williams last year. Eberflus. That was a bad idea. The guy's a dum-dum. No disrespect to Eberflus or his family. But when you get Caleb Williams, you need to have an offensive mind. A brilliant offensive mind, which they have now in Ben Johnson. So you can have someone there to build around him. Give him the protection, put him in a position to have success, instead of a lame duck coach that doesn't know what he's doing. but that's how you get things done. Just mention regularly how the Packers suck, how I'm 1-0 at Lambeau, and he's going to fit in just nicely. All right, big thanks to Tony. Rip City Drive coming up on Wednesday, NBA Draft 2025. It'll kick off. Round one will get underway about 5 o'clock. The Trailblazers will be selecting with pick number 11. Our coverage will start with the Rip City Drive at 3. It's going to be live from Dr. Jack's over there at the Rose Quarter. From 3 until 4:30. At 4:30, Travis Demers and Francis Williams will take over to anchor the rest of the coverage throughout the first round from Dr. Jack's. And there's going to be a Blazers Block Party Draft Edition at the Rose Quarter campus. A lot of different games. Pop-A-Shot, Tic-Tac-Toe, some blow-up games. DJ OG1 is bumping some music out there. The Rip City Remix are going to be on hand. There's going to be photo ops, face painters. There's going to be beer tasting at Dr. Jack's. Everything you could possibly want to enjoy a beautiful afternoon and, of course, taking in the NBA draft. But our coverage will start at 3, and we'll go all the way up through the end of the first round of Joe Cronin's press conference. We put together a sweet prize pack that includes an authentic autographed Scoot Henderson jersey, 4 Coors Light silver seats to an upcoming game this year so you can sit in style and watch the game, and a signed Blazer pennant. All you have to do is stop by our booth over there at the Rose Quarter Commons and enter for your chance to win. And outside of that, we'll have you fully covered throughout the entire evening with our draft coverage. And then on Thursday morning, because I'm a man of the people, I'm going to come in early and double dip it. I'm going to go 7 to 9. Chris Burkhart will contribute. Sean Hyken, Travis Demers. A special AM edition of the Rip City Drive on Thursday covering the first round of the draft. What else could you want? I'm giving you everything you could possibly need. So make sure you stop by Blazers Block Party Draft Edition this Wednesday at the Rose Quarter Commons as we get ready for the first round of the 2025 NBA Draft. When we come back, I want to hear from Kevin Durant. I want to share my thoughts on the trade. Phoenix sending Kevin Durant to Houston in exchange for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the 10th pick in this year's draft, and a wheelbarrow full of second-round picks. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. And then Brad Bach and CBS Sports at 520 here on the Rip City Drive. All right, it's now 4 o'clock. Chad here. What's up, my friends? The Pacers with bad news following last night's loss in Game 7. Tyrese Halliburton has suffered a torn Achilles in yesterday's game. The injury occurred with 4:55 left in the first quarter. The Thunder get the win. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander finishes off a great year. League MVP, scoring title, and finals MVP. NBA draft coming up on Wednesday. Trailblazers at pick 11 in the first round. Francis Williams going to join me in 20 minutes to preview the draft. Our coverage Wednesday will kick off at 3 from Dr. Jax. And then Travis Demers and Francis Williams will take over at 4:30 and go throughout the entire first round. Join the Blazers for their block party draft edition from the Rose Quarter campus. And you can stop by and enter to win for your chance at a Trailblazers prize pack, including 4 Coors Light silver seats, an autographed Scoot Henderson jersey, and a signed Blazers pennant. Elsewhere, Chris Middleton picks up his $33 million player option, and Kevin Durant traded by the Suns to the Rockets. Oh! Boy, Shacker going with the deep cuts today. Stay the Night by Chicago. Some vintage Peter Cetera Chicago, which is great Chicago. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. What did I read about Peter Cetera? I think he had some type of jaw injury and had to have his jaw like wired shut. And that's why he's got the weird delivery when he sings with a unique voice. But he's a one of a kind. And that's why when he sings, if you watch him close enough, it doesn't look like his mouth is moving. Like he's some type of puppet or something. It's like, how's that guy making that sound right there? Wild. Really good. I've seen Chicago in concert many a times, but never with Peter Cetera. Because by the time I saw them in concert, he was on doing his solo career. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Coming up the rest of the way, Francis Williams, Trailblazers analyst, is going to join the show at 4:20. We'll get his take on the NBA draft and some of the players that the Blazers may be looking at, prospects that could be good to have. I also want to find out who the best rim protector in the draft is, who's the best shooter, who's the next best player after Cooper Flagg, and where's Ace Bailey going to wind up? So Francis Williams coming up here in 20 minutes. And then Brad Botkin, CBS Sports, talking finals, talking offseason, talking Durant trade. And we'll also get his take on, because he did a lot of research last night on the Achilles injuries. What is leading to all the Achilles injuries we're seeing across the league? It's an epidemic. So what's going on? So Botkin with some great insight there. I had a Bears fan reach out to me. He appreciated me cracking on Matt Eberflus from the 360. From a lifelong Bears fan, Matt Eberflus deserves all the hate. Worst coach in Bears history. Ben Johnson will look like a god, even if he's mediocre. He also said, I knew they were in trouble when cool guy Eberflus showed up on Hard Knocks. And what a bleeping waste of a cheap quarterback year. And that's the key in the NFL. You got to capitalize on the rookie quarterback contract. That's that window of opportunity where you can add money to different parts of your team. Build up around the quarterback, add to the defense, get him some weapons, offensive line. You've got to do all that work before it's time to extend the quarterback. And as he put it, Caleb Williams doesn't appear to be a discount kind of guy. I can guarantee you that's not going to happen. Nope, the quarterbacks get paid. And then once they get paid, it becomes a lot harder to flesh out the rest of your roster. That's why I'm so fascinated by the 49ers. They paid Brock Purdy elite quarterback money, but he's not an elite quarterback. So how is he going to look without all the playmakers around him? Without all the defenders, the extra defenders, all the bells and whistles on the offense. How's that going to work out? Now, if you got Patrick Mahomes, you can probably find a way to win because Patrick Mahomes is so good. But I can't blame the quarterback for wanting to get quarterback-type money because they're the ones that have all the pressure. They got to make the plays. They take all the hate when things go sideways. They take too much credit when things go well. I mean, if I had a guy like Justin Herbert, I'm going to give him whatever he wants to make sure he's happy. And Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes and you name it. But the Broncos are in the same boat right now. They've got Bo Nix. He's coming off a very successful rookie campaign. Now you can spend money on other parts of the team to put the squad around a guy like that before it comes time to pay him. All right, Kevin Durant, the big news over the weekend, aside from the injury to Tyrese Halliburton, was Kevin Durant, who is now on his way from Phoenix to Houston. And I like the fit Kevin Durant with the Houston Rockets, assuming he can be healthy. And for the Phoenix Suns, I think it's an acknowledgement that they tried it one way, it blew up in their face, and now they're going to start from scratch. They got to rebuild that team. And, Matt Ishbia, their owner, he came in guns a-blazing, but, you learn real quick as an owner, even with a lot of money, that with the salary cap and how punitive those NBA contracts are, you got to be smart with how you deal with your assets. Because there's no forgiveness for signing a bad contract or making a bad trade in the NBA. I mean, you pay the ultimate price. But Kevin Durant, I think this is what Kay Adams was asked whether or not he had a hand in being dealt to the Rockets. Here's what Kevin Durant had to say.
When people could just hang your career in a balance like that and just choose what they want to do with your career is a nerve-wracking feeling, but being able to kind of dictate what you want to do and then being with a team that values you, and I'm looking forward to it.
Kevin, people are going to hold on to that dictate what you want to do. Did you have a hand in this?
Most definitely. I mean, they asked me where I wanted to go. Some of my destinations, I gave to them, and here we are.
Thanks, Kay. I appreciate that. There's Kevin Durant. All right, so this would appear on paper to be the perfect pairing between player and team. Now, let's dial it back a little bit. Let's go back to the first round of the playoffs. Remember that Rockets, number 2 seed in the Western Conference? They had a great regular season, a lot of young talent, great defensively. Ime Udoka is their coach, so they're going to be tough, and they're going to get after it defensively. And they had a great first-round series against the Golden State Warriors, but got knocked out in Game 7. And why is that? Well, it's because they were exactly who we thought they were going into the postseason. Great defensive team, very athletic, but struggled in the half court. And I think the number is they were top 10 in isolations on the year, but they were like number 27 in the NBA in points per possession off isolation. So they love to isolate, but the problem is they don't have guys who can finish the play. And so we knew going into the half court, the question is, could they find enough shot makers to get the job done to win the series? And the answer was no. And Jalen Green, who they thought was going to be the guy, struggled in the postseason, and they moved off him. So the Rockets deal out Dylan Brooks, very good defender, tough player, and Jalen Green, and the number 10 pick in this year's draft, and I think 5 second-round picks. That goes to Phoenix in exchange for Kevin Durant. I think Kevin Durant's going to fit in perfectly. What they should do is make sure they monitor his minutes throughout the course of the regular season, because the key for Kevin Durant right now, it's not whether or not he can still play, but the key for him is going to be to remain healthy. Don't overuse him. Don't overwork him. Just make sure that he is healthy come postseason time. Because what's going to happen now when you get into these half-court sets come playoff time when the game slows down and you need someone to be able to operate in ISO, Kevin Durant's still as good as anybody in the league at doing that, because his shot's pretty much unblockable. He's got great length. He can get to his spots. He can knock down shots. And he's a very efficient basketball player. And we've all known that. Kevin Durant's one of the best offensive players I have ever seen in the NBA, because he can do it all. Shoot the three at a high percentage, field goal percentage is high, and he makes his free throws. just a very efficient basketball player. And he's also very long and he can defend. Now, he's not the same player that he used to be at 37, but on a good night, like he's probably a second-tier star now in the NBA, but on a good night, he can be as good as any of the top-tier stars in the league. So that's kind of where he's at. Not a true number one now, but on any given night, he can be a true one. But for the Rockets, what's great for him is that, one, they've got depth, so he won't feel all the pressure to have to do it night in and night out. They're a very good defensive basketball team, so, it'll work nicely to know that throughout the course of the season, they'll have stretches where their offense is not as good, but they can lean on the defense. And then Kevin Durant's joining a team that is composed of mostly younger players who will defer to him. It's a great opportunity for him to go. And then the cool thing is, if they win and have success, and let's say the Rockets make a run to the NBA Finals, Kevin Durant will be looked at as kind of the missing piece, that veteran link who was able to come in and help them get over the top. It's a great opportunity. And I think Ime Udoka and he will fit nicely together. But I'm excited because Ahmed Thompson's one of my favorite players to watch in the league. You get him out there on the floor with Şengün and some of the different key pieces they have a chance to be really good defensively. And the Rockets are much like the Thunder and the Pacers, a team with a lot of long and athletic guys who are two-minded type players. They can get after it on both ends. But Kevin Durant's that fixture because you can get the ball to Durant in a variety of different spots and know that he's going to be able to create and get a good look for you. I mean, that's one of his true values is that he can get to his spots and get his shot up over anyone. So I think the Rockets made a good move. And I'm sure it's tough to lose Dillon Brooks, but they'll be able to find a replacement. But, that team's well coached. Ime Udoka knows what he's doing. He just got extended. Kevin Durant now, this should be an opportunity for a fresh breath of air. And for the Suns, they just fell in love with the idea of star power. And that's because of Matt Ishbia. He wanted the stars, so they went after what they thought was a big three, and it turned out to be not much. Because in the NBA, you've got to have a balanced roster, you've got to have length, and you've got to have guys who can do it in a variety of different ways. And the Suns just didn't have enough. Between Beal and Durant and Booker, you got to have more than that. So this is a chance for the Suns, they're going to take a loss. Like they're not going to get the value back for Durant because of his age. That's why you're able to get Durant for Brooks, Green, and a first-round pick because he's 37. But it gives the Suns some tools to work with to start this process of, rebuilding. And we'll see what happens in the near future. Maybe they look to move off Book at some point to continue to bring in the assets to retool. The owners, these young owners with big money, they don't know coming in, but they learn real quick that there's a certain way you got to do things to have success. All right, 503-248-0620. Francis Williams, Trailblazers analyst, going to join us, and he's real clued in on the draft. So I want to get his take on a few of the prospects, who the Blazers might be looking at, or who might be sitting there around 11 when the Blazers are picking. Who's the best shooter in the draft? Who's the next best player after Cooper Flagg? Where's Ace Bailey going to wind up? We'll find out next with Francis Williams here on the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, now that the NBA season is officially over, we can turn our attention to the NBA draft, which is coming up on Wednesday. Our coverage will kick off live from Dr. Jack's at the Rose Quarter campus at 3, and the Rip City Drive goes until 4:30. Now, at 4:30, Travis Demers, the voice of your Portland Trailblazers, will anchor coverage along with Trailblazers analyst Francis Williams, who joins the show right now. Francis, good afternoon. Thank you for making time for the show.
Oh, thanks a lot for having me, Chad. Appreciate it.
Well, let's start at the very top. Cooper Flagg is a spectacular player. I was so happy he went to Duke, so we had a chance to watch him for an entire season, and he went deep in the tournament, falling in the championship game. What's your take on Cooper Flagg and what type of player he's going to be in the NBA?
Well, I think exactly what you saw at Duke, and if you've been following this young man since he kind of burst on the scene as a 10th grader, he has all the pieces. He has size. He has a great skill set. He has a feel for the game. He has instincts. He has toughness. He has athleticism. So at only 18, going to be 19 later on this year, the sky's the limit because he has all the pieces and all the makings of what could turn out to be a great player. So I don't think that any of this is he's being overhyped. It's hard to live up to the hype sometimes, and I think he more than did that at Duke. He got off to a bit of a rough start early in the year in Chicago, but as time went on, you saw him even during the course of the season get better. And I think he's going to have that same type of trend as he makes his way into the NBA.
Do you think that transition of him going to what appears to be Dallas with established vets like Kyrie Irving and the rest of the guys that have Anthony Davis, do you think that's a good fit for him, or would it have been better to go to a team where he could be the number one guy and grow that way? How do you see that?
I think he's going to a good situation, and I think he's really going to be able to take advantage of having Jason Kidd as a coach. I think there's a lot of advantages to the situation that he's going to be in Dallas, and it'll help the Dallas fans get over the trade also.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, so after Cooper Flagg, there's been a lot of talk. Dylan Harper, VJ Edgecombe, Ace Bailey, Con Knuppel. We know Cooper Flagg is going to be the number one pick. Who do you think is the next best player in the draft?
Well, I'll give it to you two ways. The next best talent in the draft is Bailey, but the best player in the draft to me is Dylan Harper. And I can say that with some confidence because he was one of the players that I did get to see play in person when Rutgers played UW up here in Seattle. I did get a chance to go to that game and see Harper and Flagg for that. And Bailey for that matter. But Dylan Harper has all the tools and the bloodlines with his dad. He's ready to play in the NBA right now. He's got the size, he's got the strength, but he understands pace, and he understands how to get people involved. He also understands when he needs to take over, and he has the ability to do that. He's not a big-time athlete, but his understanding and feel, and he's so very skilled, and he's a lefty, which gives him an advantage. He's ready to play in the NBA right now.
Most mocks have him going to San Antonio. Would you like that fit there with the star power they have?
He gets to go play with Victor. So, yeah, I'd like it. I granted, they've got De'Aaron Fox, who they made the move for during the season, but they can figure that out because doesn't have to go in there right away, and they're depending heavily on him to contribute right away. They have a good core of young players that they can all grow together and become that team that they're looking for as they all get a little older and a little bit more mature. So I think it will be a good situation for him.
We're talking with Francis Williams, Trailblazers analyst, as we get ready for the draft coming up on Wednesday. You mentioned Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, who played together at Rutgers, Con Knuppel at Duke, I think people are familiar with. VJ Edgecombe from Baylor, shooting guard. Many people may not be as familiar with him, but what can you tell me about Edgecombe and what he's going to bring to the NBA?
Well, he's an incredible athlete, big-time athlete. He's a big-time defender. On the offensive end, he's definitely going to have to improve his skills, going to have to become a better shooter, going to have a better feel for the game. But you just see that athleticism and some of the things that he'll be able to provide getting out in the open court, things he can do on the defensive end. And he's just one of those guys that you know exactly what you're going to get from him every night because he does not take a play off. He's always playing at the highest level in terms of his energy and effort, which every coach, everybody loves. But he's got some work to do with his skills, but you're not going to find anyone that's going to play any harder. And again, he's got supreme athleticism.
All right, Francis. What about the best shooter in this draft? Who do you think that is?
Well, depending on what you're looking for, catch and shoot, it's Knuppel. I think that's pretty cut and dried. Although Kobe Brea is a guy that they don't talk a lot about, but Kobe Brea is an excellent shooter too. But really, that's about all he does. Knuppel brings some other things to the table, but Kobe Brea is an outstanding shooter as well. Now, coming off screens and being able to create your own shot with some creativity, I would say Trey Johnson from Texas is the one that fits in that category. The big kid from Stanford, Renaud, I think is the best big man shooter. And don't forget about Liam McNeely. He didn't have the best year at UConn. And originally he was going to go to Indiana. He changed his mind. He went to UConn. He's a good shooter, but he didn't shoot it that well at UConn. And I think that if he can just kind of get his confidence back and get in the right situation, he's someone that you don't want to overlook as being one of the best shooters in the draft.
Hey, Francis, I saw Trey Johnson play a number of times this year, the freshman from Texas. I like his game. Will he be able to contribute right away, or is it going to take him some time to adjust to the NBA game? What do you see there?
I think he'll be able to contribute right away. Now, he can be a bit selfish at times, but he didn't play on the best team at Texas, and he was only doing what he was allowed to do, so I'm not going to really hold that against him. But in the right situation, getting the coaching, getting him to understand what's a good shot and what's a great shot, understanding that the attention that he can bring to get the guys around him good looks as always, understand that when we run a play for you, it's not always running a play for you to get a shot. It's running a play for us to get the best shot, so you may be getting in a situation for another player. Once he gets that understanding of how that's a nuance of the game, I think he's going to be a really good NBA player, but he's just got a lot to learn. But the way he shoots the ball, and if he's got open looks, I think he can contribute right away. I really do.
All right, that's exciting. Now, Francis, I want to focus on the Trailblazers for a moment. First off, I want to get your take on what you saw from the group, especially that second half of the season when we saw the young guys really step up and start to emerge and play a lot better defense and respond to what Coach Billups and his staff wanted them to do. What were your thoughts on the way the Blazers played out the year, and just some of your thoughts on the team and the young nucleus?
Well, I think I felt exactly what you said. I mean, they made a decision that we're going to get out here and try to win some games. And what Coach Billups was demanding from them, they all bought in. You saw the intensity on the defensive end. You saw the attention to detail on the defensive end. And you just saw that when everyone is connected and that communication is at a very high level, that's what you get, because they do have some athletes and some pieces in place to do exactly what they did. So that buy-in is the most important piece. And the fact that they all bought in and you saw those results, I just think that it was a situation where Chauncey knows what he wants, the players know what he wants, and they were all definitely connected on the same page. And so now as they get an opportunity to add some more pieces, whether it be through the draft or you would think there's going to be some moves made here in the offseason, it's just an opportunity for them to get better. But that buy-in is the most important, and that was clear that everyone was on the same page.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. You're seeing the same thing I am now. After the season was over and you start to look at the draft, like are there particular areas of need or areas that you think the Trailblazers might look to address going into the draft? Like, what did you see based on the team's play, based on what their needs may be?
Well, I think they want to just continue to acquire talent. Let's just keep getting better players. And, of course, shooting is at a premium. Everybody is looking for shooting. But now that Coach is secure in his extension, you know he's going to be there for a minute.
Yeah.
You got a snapshot of what he wants. And so now with this draft, you can build with exactly the type of player that he would like to have to continue to build this roster with. So I think you're looking for those versatile defensive players, not necessarily defensive-minded, but guys that you know that can defend at a high level. There are some guys out there that are going to have to continue to work on their offensive games, and particularly their shooting. But there are some guys in this draft that on that defensive end, those 6'7" to 6'9" guys that you know can be a lockdown defender and also be a good team defender, again, to continue to build and acquire the talent that's necessary to compete in a ultra-competitive Western Conference.
All right, so with the Trailblazers, some of the names that have been associated with them in the mock drafts has been, like Azanul from Georgia, Carter Bryant from Arizona, Derek Queen from Maryland, just to name a few. Like, who are some of the players that you think would be available at 11 that they may have interest in or that you're interested in that fit the profile you just mentioned?
Well, if Asa Newell or Carter Bryant are there at 11, I'd be happy with either one of them. I would. I like both of them. Colin Murray Boyles is another one. He's a bit of a tweener size-wise, but he has a 7-foot wingspan, and he's got some real basketball instincts and a real high basketball IQ. So even though he's a little bit undersized, I just think that he makes up for it with his smarts, with his wingspan, and he really understands how to play the game. So I would think that between those three guys right there, if any one of them is there at 11, that would probably be a pretty solid pick.
Now, I know a lot of people are interested in Derek Queen out of Maryland. What I've heard is that, maybe we'll need some work defensively. Is that the case with Queen and what you see?
Yes, it is. And I have to, full disclosure, so he was another one that I got to see in person when Maryland played Washington up here. He had his worst game of the year. So that's what I have singed in my brain because I saw him have an absolutely terrible game. But then 2 days later, he goes to Eugene, and he just kills the Ducks and has one of his better games. I did see that game on television. So in the span of 72 hours, I saw him have his worst game, but then also saw him have one of his best games, although the second one I didn't see it in person. He's a very skilled offensive player. He's got great feel. He's a good passer. He's got great touch. He can score. He's he rebounds the ball pretty well for his size, but defensively, he's kind of in and out defensively, and you're going to really have to give him a kick in the butt to get him to understand that you've got to play hard and do certain things on the defensive end every night. When they're the offensive end, he's very skilled, and he can get you some buckets.
Francis, I like your line of thinking because after what I saw in the NBA Finals with Oklahoma City and Indiana, a lot of depth and a lot of length and a lot of long athletic guys who play both ways. And if I'm the Blazers right now, I feel the same way. Just keep loading up your roster with guys who can play on both ends of the floor, long and athletic. You can't go wrong that way, can you?
I really don't think you can. I mean, if you get them all to buy in, which we talked about, the way the Blazers are trending right now with understanding the identity that Coach Billups has talked about from day one. And I think this year, second half of the season, that got through. It was evident with how they played. So now we want to continue to just build on that, keep getting better athletes, keep getting better players. There's nothing better than competition. So you got to bring guys in that are pushing these other guys. And if you're not good enough, you're going to have to get out of the way because we are trying to get ourselves to have a championship level roster. And that's only going to happen by getting better players. And there has to be competition internally as well as when we're playing against other teams.
We're talking with Trailblazers analyst Francis Williams here on the Rip City Drive. Another player I wanted to ask you about because I had a lot of fun watching him, especially in the tournament, Walter Clayton Jr. How do you think he translates to the league?
Well, Walter Clayton Jr. is clutch. We saw that. He's fearless. I think he's one of those guys that, he's 22 and he's bounced around a little bit. I think he could be a very good backup point guard in the NBA. I don't see him as a starting point guard in the NBA, but I do see him as being a serviceable backup point guard in the league. He's got some deficiencies on the defensive end, but there's not a whole lot of guys that come out of college that don't. But on the offensive end, he's got a great feel. He can really shoot the basketball. He is only 6'2", but he knows how to play. And again, I think he'd be a good backup. I think he'll go toward the back half of the first round.
How strong overall is this draft class?
Pretty good draft. Better than last year's. Not as good as 23s, but it's a pretty strong draft. Always, it remains to be seen as these guys go through and we get to that third or fourth year and we see how good these guys really are. But just at the top with Flagg and with Harper and a lot of these guys that you pretty much know or can't miss, it's a pretty solid draft.
Hey, Francis, when you're watching these guys, whether it be in person or on television, what are some of the skills that jump out at you, and what are the things that you see or that your eye picks up on that you think, okay, that's something that can work, or that's an area that will definitely need some work when you're trying to figure out how a guy translates to the NBA?
Well, I want to see their feel, and I want to see how competitive they are. I want to see how they react when things aren't going well. I want to see how they interact with their teammates, because all of these things factor into whether you're going to have success or not. Being a good teammate is a part of being successful. So when you look at some of the nuances and some of the small things, I mean, most of the time the athleticism will jump off the page. You'll see it, but you'll see a little something, or they'll make a play that'll just make you say that, okay, now that was something special that not everyone can do. But you just want to see, when it comes to your system or your program, how do they fit into what we're trying to do? Because not everybody is looking for the same thing, but you're just looking to see how will they fit into what we like to do, and then whatever that is that we like to do, if you see something that you think fits your system, then that's your guy. So when we talked about trying to get more athletic and these versatile guys that are interchangeable on the wings, if that's what you're looking for, okay, who's the guy in this draft that fits that bill? And I think we've talked about several guys, with Flagg probably being at the top. He's not going to be there at 11, but there are guys in this draft that will fit that bill.
I mean, Francis, what was your reaction to seeing Tyrese Halliburton go down in the first quarter last night of the Game 7?
Oh, it was terrible, because it's one of those things that, unfortunately, we have seen that happen so many times here recently. We knew exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Nobody had to tell us. They didn't have to come back and give us a report. If you were watching that, you've been watching any basketball for the last year, you knew exactly what happened. And it was just terrible. I felt bad for him. I felt bad for the Pacers. But I give him credit for going out there and giving it a go, knowing that was could likely happen, but it was just terrible. I felt bad for him, and I just wish him and his family the best as he goes through that long recovery that him and Dame and Kyrie and a bunch of guys are going through right now.
No question. All right, our draft coverage on Wednesday will kick off at 3, live from Dr. Jack's. At 4:30 after the Rip City Drive, Travis Demers, the voice of your Trailblazers, and Francis Williams are going to anchor coverage throughout the entire first round, live from Dr. Jack's, here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Francis, I know Travis is thrilled to work with you. He can't wait. I really respect your work, and I appreciate making time, and we look forward to the draft on Wednesday, buddy.
Hey, thanks a lot, Chad. I'm really looking forward to it.
You got it. There's Francis Williams, Trailblazers analyst here on the Rip City Drive, breaking down the first round of the NBA draft. And, two of those guys, Carter Bryant, Azanul, two players, long and athletic, that, if the Blazers had access to either one of them at 11 and decided to go that route, he'd be happy with that. But, I think what he said is key. Joe Cronin's main objective right now is just to acquire or continue to acquire talent. And I want long, athletic guys who can play both ways, who want to defend, who are willing defenders. I mean, we know what the mentality now of this team is. And the two guys that set the tone are Chauncey Billups type guys. And Francis is a good dude. That's a good dude. He'll be with Travis from 4:30 until the end of the first round on Wednesday with our coverage of the 2025 NBA draft here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Big thanks to Francis. Brad Botkin, CBS Sports, is coming up at 5:20. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, draft coming up on Wednesday. Trailblazers with pick number 11. And we'll kick our we'll kick our all right, tongue-tied. Give me more music, Shacker. Let me try and regroup. All right, let's try this again. The Blazers will have pick number 11 in Wednesday's draft. Let's go out to the phones right now. You can jump on board here at the Rip City Drive, 503-248-0620. Pat is in Portland. Pat, appreciate the call. What's on your mind with the Blazers?
Well, I want to talk about the draft potential. I know we've been talking about what's going to happen on Wednesday, but I'm curious about what do we have in our bag of possibilities for the next few years down the road for draft picks that we could trade away if we needed to with what we have of guys that are a little bit older that we need to get rid of. What can we package? I'm not up on where we're at with all that. So
all right, I'll give the details on the draft picks in just a moment. But what of the veterans, like what do you think is the most important need for the Trailblazers? What must Joe Cronin get done this offseason in your mind?
I think we need a good swingman that can play center forward that can shoot. Because I'm a little bit worried about our two centers that have injury problems.
Yeah.
Klingen's really good, but I don't think we can depend on him night in and night out yet.
I agree, and that's why, one thing I'm going to watch. One thing we know is that Robert Williams III is not really going to be well, it's just not someone you can rely upon because of the injuries. Now, Donovan Klingen he's going to be great, but he's not at a point right now where he can play, 35 minutes a night. That's not going to happen. So they're going to need someone to eat up some minutes next to him. So whether that's DeAndre Ayton, who's going to be on an expiring contract, or, the Blazers, let's say they deal Ayton, they could always go out and find, a backup center to come in. But you're going to need someone there to be able to, eat up some minutes next to Donovan Klingen. There's no doubt about that. So something to keep in mind. But, for the Trailblazers, they've got work to do. I would say the number one priority in my mind is trading Jeremy Grant. So you can clear out the space to be able to make sure that your two best players are starting side by side at the forward spots. Now, that to me is number one, the most important. After that, making a decision on Anthony Simons. Now, I would be shocked if they extended Simons and he stayed here moving into the future. I think you've got to move Simons as well. That's what I would do because they drafted the two guards. I think you've made your decision there. And so you got to move on. But you're not going to do it at a loss. So, you're going to try to make moves this summer, and hopefully you can put it together. But the Blazers are not going to move someone just to move someone. They're going to have to get some value in return with Grant and with Anthony Simons. With Robert Williams III, you're just hoping he can stay healthy so that, you can be in a position to, possibly deal him in the future. The injuries have been unfortunate because in the small window or period of times he's been able to play, he's been productive. I mean, that's pretty much the type of player he is. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. But, yeah, that's my number one priority, Jeremy Grant. Anthony Simons after that. And, it is possible, too, that, that the Blazers, they look relatively the same when the season gets underway next year. If the value's not there in potential deals, it could go down. But if they were to move Grant and open up that space for the two forwards and Avdia and Kamara to start side by side, I think that would be perfect. No question about it. So draft coverage will kick off at 3. And after that, Travis Demers and Francis Williams will take over at 4:30, and they're going to be on up until the end of the first round. And that's pretty much how it's going to be. And they'll have Joe Cronin's press conference, and I'll be back in on Thursday morning at 7 o'clock, 7 to 9. And we'll have the whole thing covered for you. So I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to the draft. But more importantly, I think I'm looking forward to the draft like I'm sure most of you are because I'm curious to see, what they're going to be able to do. And I'm looking for it, my friend Pat. I'm looking for the trouble. I don't have the list right in front of me, and I can't find it, and it's hard to produce on the fly. But the future picks, uh, I'm looking for you. I'm looking for you. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have the list in front of me. I got to pull it during the break. But we'll see what they do. I think they'll take a player at 11. I think they're going to take a player at 11 and add another piece. I do not think they're going to attach a pick to Grant or somebody else to make a move, just to move a guy out. I don't think they're going to do it that way. That would be surprising to me. I mean, the way it's been explained to me is that, the Blazers, they're looking for value, and we know that Joe Cronin's looking to continue to add talent. Obviously, they would do a net positive where you make a trade and you get good value in return. They might do a net neutral, but they're not going to do something where they, like for instance, trading Jeremy Grant and attaching a pick to him just to unload him, but not getting any real value in return. That would be a loss. What I'm hoping is that you could trade Grant and maybe get a couple of younger players in return, guys who might be able to help out on the roster. And in terms of actual needs on this roster, I would say guard depth, having a backup, point guard depth might be helpful. Figuring out what you're going to do at center. Are you going to keep Ayton or are you going to deal him? And if you do trade Ayton, then who's going to come in and be able to eat up minutes next to Donovan Clingan? And a lot of it, too, depends on, the veterans that are here right now, depending on what you move out. If you're able to make any trades and any veterans go, then you're going to have to look to replace, some specific position of need on the roster. But in terms of, overall roster, like they're pretty well loaded up at the wing spots right now, the center position. They got some guys who can play guard, but that changes significantly with the vets because you've got who? Jeremy Grant, Anthony Simons, DeAndre Ayton, Matisse Thybulle. So you've got multiple vets right now. If you move out, if you're able to trade and move out, 2 or 3 of those guys, then that could change or at least alter how you look at the roster in terms of what you need. Chris Burkhardt will have Blazers courtside coming up at 6 o'clock. And then Brad Bakken from CBS Sports is going to talk basketball with us coming up at 5:20. If you want to reach out, 503-248-0620. You can find me on social at Chad and Rip City. And our draft coverage will kick off Wednesday at 3 live from Dr. Jack's. The Trailblazers block party starts at 4:30, draft edition. And you can stop by the iHeart tent and enter for your chance to win the prize pack, including 4 Coors Light silver seats to an upcoming game, a authentic autographed Scoot Henderson jersey, and the signed Blazers pennant. All right, Brad Brocken at 5:20, Chris Burkhardt with courtside at 6. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
Halliburton falls down. He looks hurt. Here comes SGA the other way. Inside, and Williams throws it down. Halliburton's hurt right away when he fell. Of course, that strained calf. He's in pain, so emotional. It's the right calf right away. He knew he was in trouble. Oh, you get in a situation like this, you're just sick to your stomach for the young man.
Yeah, I was sick to my stomach, too, when I saw that happen. 4:55 left in the first, and Tyrese Halliburton goes down with the injury that we all knew that he went down with, a ruptured Achilles. We've seen enough of them now. I mean, the NBA is setting records right now with guys suffering ruptured Achilles or torn Achilles, and I hate seeing that type of injury. But at the same time, I admire the heck out of Halliburton for having the guts, the stones to go out there and play in a Game 7. He played in Game 6. And the two players that kept going through my mind when I knew what Halliburton was dealing with that calf strain were Dame and Kevin Durant, because we knew what happened with those guys when they took the floor with that type of injury, that it was going to result in the torn Achilles. And it was unfortunate because Halliburton came back and he really had a gutty performance in Game 6, played extremely well. And he got up to a great start with 3 threes, and then the injury happens. And it took the wind out of their sails. I have no idea how they suffered that injury to Halliburton and had a 1-point lead at halftime. And then the Thunder just blew the doors off in that third quarter and put the game away. So it stinks, man. I hate to see those type of things happen. But what are you going to do? So if you have a calf strain and you're putting yourself at risk of an Achilles injury, if it was the regular season, they would rest him. They would make him sit. They would rest him. He would get treatment, and they wouldn't bring him back until they were confident that he was going to be okay. But when you're playing a Game 7 in the NBA Finals and a chance to win a championship, how can you not play in that game? And we've talked about this in sports where you think a team's going to get back, you think you're going to get another look at it, but then you don't. And they were sitting in a situation where they were 48 minutes away from an NBA title. You got to play. So I respect Halliburton. I feel horrible for the guy because he's probably going to miss all of next season now with that injury. And you don't know what he's going to look like when he comes back. And we don't know if he's going to have a chance to get back to the NBA Finals. So it's just a heartbreaking story and an unfortunate, dark cloud over what should have been a fabulous Game 7. But instead, Halliburton goes down. The Thunder dominate the second half, and they win the championship. And the Thunder are absolutely deserving. 68 wins on the season. They set the NBA record for point differential, a sensational defense, and a team that truly plays together. They have a lot of great guys, great team players, guys who play together. They're obviously very reliant upon Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is one of a few now with Finals MVP, League MVP, and also a scoring title. Joining guys like Shaq, Kareem, and MJ. It's amazing. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a special player, and he had a big-time year. So I was happy for him, but I got to give major props to one guy right now, Chet Holmgren, who I thought was going to be an absolute bust. I thought he was going to be a bum. I would not have drafted him in the top 3. I thought that was crazy. And it turns out that I was absolutely wrong about Chet Holmgren. Now, he's got a lot of work. Here's the bright side for Chet Holmgren. He showed his devastating defense with the shot blocks in Game 7 with 5? Absurd. He struggled at times with his offense. He still needs to get a little bit stronger. But he's so young, and he's already showcasing the talent that he has. My biggest surprise with Chet that I've seen so far during his NBA career, now that he's a champion, is the foot speed to be able to get out and contest at the three-point line. He moves much better than what you think he would be able to move, and he's been able to do it on the NBA level. And after the Thunder won it, he talked about how happy he was in the moment.
Continuing to fight no matter what happened, never give in, and, I just couldn't be happier for the rest of my teammates, man. I couldn't be happier for the city, happier for Clay, for Presti, the rest of the organization. I'm just so happy for all of them, and it's going to be a great night in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, there's no question. Chet also talked about the different things that he had to overcome to get to this point.
I've been through so much personally this year, not only the hip, but other things playing too. I'm proud of these guys for holding it down while I was out. I'm proud of myself for never quitting. Broken bones, bruises, it's all temporary, but this is forever. Let's go.
Well, he nailed that. And he did. He's shown remarkable toughness throughout the course of his career thus far. But the one thing he nailed there is that the championship is forever. I mean, heck, we've been celebrating the 77 championship here in town for like 50 years. Why? Because it's forever. No one can ever take it away. And that's the beauty of an NBA championship, of a Super Bowl trophy, a Stanley Cup, you name it. The beauty of it is no one can take it away. And that's what you play for. That's what you go to work for. That's why you put in all those hours so you have the opportunity to get to this point and win a championship. And no one can ever take that away. You get the ring, you're going to be remembered forever. And this group is the first that brings a championship to Oklahoma City. And even though I'm not a Thunder fan, the Thunder arrived in town long after I moved away from Oklahoma. But I'm very happy for the city and for the people in the state. You know, my blood is there. That's my land. And so I'm very happy for the people there in Oklahoma City after everything that they've been through. Well, but what a moment. And Sam Presti, the wizard who has an ability to collect draft picks like nobody else, talked about the Thunder being champions.
Well, the first thing is Oklahoma has a true team and not just a winner. These guys represent all that's good. At a young age, they prioritize winning. They prioritize sacrifice. And this just kind of unfolded very quickly. But you have to give the credit to the guys. And we're super grateful to have these guys representing us.
In other words, suck it, Seattle. How do you think Sonic fans feel right now? Like, if you're a Sonic fan, can you celebrate that championship? I'm not so sure you can. Don't worry, the NBA is going to get you another team. So the Thunder very happy last night, and it's very understandable. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, league MVP, finals MVP, scoring title, he did it all.
It doesn't feel real. So many hours, so many moments, so many emotions, so many nights of disbelief, so many nights of belief. It's crazy to know that we're all here, but this group worked for it. This group put in the hours, and we deserve this.
A lot of hard work, a lot of hours in the gym. This isn't just a win for me. This is a win for my family. This is a win for my friends. This is a win for everybody that was in my corner growing up. This is a win for the fans, the best fans in the world. Love you guys.
The great thing about winning a championship, when you're out there on the microphone, it doesn't matter what you say, the fans are going to applaud because they're out of their mind happy. It's pretty sweet. Thunder get the job done. They win the championship. They do it in 7 games. And with this young group, you know, the big concern with the Thunder going in, we knew that they were the most dominant team in the NBA, but some people wondered, would they be able to get through the postseason? How would they respond in those clutch moments without the experience? But they responded in every step of the way. Against Denver, we saw it in the finals against the Pacers. They answered the call, and they found a way to overcome. And they're only going to become better because of that. And, you know, we'll dig into that with Brad Botkin coming up here in a few minutes. Like, what's the next step? Like, if you're Sam Presti and you want to go back-to-back, and they certainly have a great chance to do it, like, what's the maneuver? Do you make any adjustments? Do you tinker with your lineup at all? I don't think so. Now, of course, 2 of the big moves that the Thunder made, that Presti made, was going out and getting another big in Isaiah Hartenstein, who proved to be very valuable, and, of course, Alex Caruso, kind of the vet. He was that bench captain. He had won a championship before with the Lakers. He brought a lot of experience, and the rest of the guys on the team really respect him, and what a big moment for him.
It's been unpredictable. There's been a lot of ups and downs. I've found success, failures, all that stuff on the way. You know, I've had people that supported me, my mom and dad, my sisters, my brother-in-law, my fiance, her family, like different paths in the road. Everyone supported me and just kept me focused. And then, you know, the Thunder, obviously, you know, Sam and Clay, they had the belief to bring me here and be a part of something special, and special is what we were.
Yeah, Caruso was terrific throughout the playoff run. the experience, his playmaking, the defense, and the way he worked. Like, he had several stretches throughout the course of the playoff run where he was just a difference maker. And it's quite a valuable resource when you can head to the bench and bring in Caruso, who, brings the smarts, the toughness, the defense. He can do a little bit of everything. I think that's one of the things I respect the most about the Thunder is just that roster and the way they play it. So tough. Now, on the other side, you hear all the jubilation, all the excitement of the Thunder after winning the championship. But for the Pacers, you get to Game 7. You're 48 minutes away from a championship, and you come up short. And you lose your star player, Therese Halliburton, in the first quarter. You feel like you've been gutted. Here's Coach Carlisle.
I told these guys coming into this that, there's no feel-good scenario when you get to the finals and are unable to get it done. And it really hurts on the one hand. On the other hand, this team has given all of Pacer Nation something to be very proud of.
Yeah. That's tough. It's tough. The finality of it. You get to that point, all the work, all the blood, sweat, and tears, everything you pour out into your team, and you get to Game 7 of the NBA Finals, which are rare, and you come up short. It's brutal. And there's no guarantee that they would have won that game had Halliburton been able to finish and play, but they definitely would have had a better chance. It's got to be tough because no matter who you go to on the bench, it's just not going to be the same. And with Halliburton, you saw it after he went out. They don't have the same type of transition points. The offense doesn't flow the way it's supposed to. The defense doesn't have to account for Halliburton. The defense respects him. He opens things up for his teammates. But Rick Carlisle, what a heck of a job he did. Did you think the Pacers are going to be in the finals? I certainly didn't. No way. There's no way they're getting to the finals. And yet there they were. And what's really bizarre is how he ramped it up on both ends as the season went along. And by the time the postseason hit, they were a dominant defensive team. They were getting after it on both ends. And I thought the finals would be a quick series. 5 games, I thought the Thunder would win. But the Pacers showed a lot of toughness. They came back to win Game 1. They were able to bounce back after getting throttled in Game 5, and they won Game 6. They forced a Game 7. The Pacers respect the way they played. I thought this finals was a win for, basketball fans with the way these two teams played. Good defense, guys willing to share the basketball. I thought Shai Gilgeous, the scoring was there, and that's never going to be an issue for him. But I thought his playmaking with the assists in Game 7 were terrific. And the Thunder, obviously when they hit threes, they're going to be really good. But when Gilgeous is out there looking to get his teammates involved and has got a good feel for where his teammates are at and he's making the right decision, the right pass, getting guys involved, they're at their best. And I thought his floor game was tremendous. But he's just got a unique ability as a great scorer to get to his spots. And once he does, he's lethal. He's almost unstoppable. And that's what you would expect from a scoring champ, from a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's got some go-to moves. He knows how to get to his spots. He knows how to draw fouls. And he was awesome. And what a big year for him. Now, we thought the Denver Nuggets had a good chance to go back-to-back. They did not. We thought the Celtics, I certainly did, had a great chance to go back-to-back. They did not. But now I'm looking at the Thunder, and I'm thinking, man, they're so young, and they get this experience of winning a championship. Usually when a team gets over the hump and wins a title, it brings them together. They get the experience. They're going to be better because of it. It's hard to imagine the Thunder not being in a great position next year to win it. What could derail them? And what's scary about the Thunder is as good as they are right now, and they're really good, they're not going to sneak up on anyone anymore, but they're so young. And so many guys on the roster, like I mentioned with Chet Holmgren, they've got a chance to improve and get better. And we already know what they can do defensively. The bottom line is when you defend like they do and you can get stops, it allows you to go through, stretches where you don't have it offensively, where you're not hitting threes. Maybe you're turning the basketball over. They can just lean on their defense until they get things going offensively. I think maybe one thing that might be good for them moving forward is to find some, better support for Shai. So, when other guys aren't stepping up and making shots, you're not so reliant upon him to get the offense at the end of the shot clock. But then again, if you are, he's going to be able to get it done because he's that good. So big props to the Thunder. Credit to the Pacers and their coach, Rick Carlisle. I feel heartbroken for Tyrese Halliburton, but what a good finals. All right, when we come back, Brad Botkin's going to join us. He'll give us some unique insight into Halliburton's injury and the rise of the Achilles injuries that we're seeing in the NBA. What's the result? I think he's got some good insight on that. We'll get his take on the Kevin Durant trade and what he thinks about the Rockets now that they've got KD. What about the Suns? And then in terms of storylines, what's something to keep an eye on with draft night approaching on Wednesday and the preseason there shortly after. Brad Botkin's coming up next. CBS Sports. Chad Doing here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Well, the Oklahoma City Thunder got it done, and joining us right now to recap the NBA Finals and all things NBA, the draft coming up on Wednesday, Brad Botkin from CBS Sports. Brad, I was wondering about this morning. You know, when we grew up and watched basketball, a lot of the guys that I talked to, whether it be Drexler or Porter, some of the guys here in Portland, when the offseason would hit, they would get away from basketball. And I'm just wondering, with all of the Achilles injuries now, is this just a the way it is now with guys from a young age, with AAU basketball, with high school, with college, they're playing so much basketball now. Do you think maybe that's why we're seeing a rise in Achilles tears? What's your take on this?
I don't know, but it's certainly true. 8 Achilles tears this year. That's an NBA record. The previous high was 5.
Wow.
Like a decade ago. 3 guys on the Pacers alone tore their Achilles this year. So it's actually, I think, starting to qualify almost as an epidemic. This used to be an injury that you really only saw in older guys. It was like, if you heard of it, it was like big news. And now it's, 3 guys, 3 star players just in this postseason, Halliburton, Lillard, and Tatum. So I spent a large part of last night, I was so pumped for what, I hadn't been this excited for an NBA game in quite a while. And to have the air go out of it with Halliburton go out, it wasn't how I intended to spend my night. And I ended up on the phone with 3 orthopedic surgeons during the rest of the game, and I'm talking to them about this very thing and what could be leading to this. A couple of interesting things. One of them told me that for about 30 years up until 2012, the average NBA team ran about 1,300 miles a year. In 2012 and 2014, it jumped by 200 miles, and it went up in about 2015 to about 1,500 miles a year. So you're talking about basically an extra 7 to 8 marathons a year that teams are being asked to run. Why? Because of the pace of games, because of the space of games. They're having to cover much more ground, and they're having to stop and start a lot more with all of the defensive recovery now. You've got to jump down to the driving lane and then plant and explode back out to shooters. The spacing of the three-point line is forcing you to cover so much ground from an explosive standpoint. And that's these step backs, these heel drops are where we see all of these injuries, where you're going one way, you stop, plant, and push back the other way. And so that's something to note. The second thing is, and I thought this was super interesting, everybody makes the correlation between calf strains leading into Achilles tears, and the anecdotal evidence is pretty overwhelming. Donovan Mitchell, Isaiah Thomas, a number of guys were on Twitter last night making this connection, and it's hard to argue. Kevin Durant was out for 5 weeks with a calf strain in 2019, comes back, blows his Achilles. Aaron Rodgers, if you look at the NFL, he was dealing with a calf strain that preceded his Achilles tear. Last night, Halliburton had a calf strain in Game 5. He ends up tearing his Achilles. Most of the orthopedic surgeons will tell you, or all the ones that I've talked to, that there is no literature to suggest a correlation, a direct connection between a calf tear turning into an Achilles tear. But they will all sort of say in sort of a common sense way that it's along the same chain, the same structure. It's the next thing in line. And anything, if you hurt your ankle, you're more susceptible to hurt your knee or vice versa because there's compensation involved. Your gait changes a little bit. And so calf injuries certainly do play at least an informal role in leading to these Achilles tears. And I think you're going to see the NBA playing it extra careful. It started with the KD injury where now calf strains are treated as a serious thing for what they could become. I think next year, if you've got a calf strain, you're going to be out for a month. I don't think anyone's going to screw around with this anymore. But the second thing that was very interesting to me, not to be too long-winded with this, but I found this really interesting, is that one orthopedic surgeon that I talked to surmised that possibly these were actually Achilles tears from the start. In other words, these calf tears happened lower down on the calf where the Achilles connects to the calf. And there could have been, in addition to a calf strain, also a micro tear of the Achilles that was missed on imaging. So it got categorized as a calf strain. It got treated as a calf strain, but actually there was a small micro or partial tear in the Achilles as well. And that is the tear, the micro tear that turned into a full tear by going out and playing on it. So I thought that was very interesting that one orthopedic surgeon said it's very easy to miss when your calf strain is lower down. It's very easy to miss that it could have also been a partial Achilles tear that was just waiting to rip fully. And if you go back and look at some of Tyrese Halliburton's warm-up footage, even before Game 5, he's wearing the tape, the supportive tape on the back of his Achilles, which suggests Achilles tendonitis, which is sort of in layman's terms, micro tears. And one of the orthopedic surgeons that I talked to said if you go back and look at the initial injuries, the calf strains, not the Achilles injuries, but the calf strains of Durant and Halliburton, what he called is the mechanism of injury actually looked more like an Achilles injury than a calf. So no one could ever prove this, but it was interesting to me that some of these, quote, calf strains on imaging was being missed, that they were also maybe a slight micro partial Achilles tear. And that's what eventually fully ripped.
Interesting. I just thought of another name. Rodney Hood here in Portland had the Achilles tendonitis before he ruptured his Achilles. But you know what? I feel bad for Halliburton. I don't know if you were thinking the same thing, but when I heard about the calf strain and I knew he was going to play in the finals, I kept thinking about KD and Dame. And if this was the regular season, like you mentioned, the Pacers would have rested him without question.
Oh, yeah.
But then you're sitting there with the chance to win the NBA championship.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing. It's the return to play. This is not a normal return to play situation.
That's right.
So we have to invoke the human element here. Listen, this isn't to say the Pacers missed anything. He went through the tests and all the mobility stuff. You know, if a partial Achilles tear was missed on imaging, like it happens, these surgeons that I talked to said this is a very, very easy thing to miss. No one did anything irresponsible here. Tyrese Halliburton, this is Game 7. And once he passed the Game 6 test, he looked fine. He played great. There's no chance he's not playing in Game 7. I would even argue that even if he had the information, even if somebody went to him and said, there's a 90% chance you're going to tear your Achilles tonight, he would have played on the 10%.
Of course.
Because it's Game 7. Like these guys, you would have had to chain him to a steel post and check those chains about 3 times to keep him out of that game. And anybody who says anything different has never been anywhere near a championship game, let alone something the magnitude of an NBA Finals. These guys have worked their entire lives to get to this moment. When people say, if I can walk, I can play, in this case, it's not hyperbole. Nobody did anything irresponsible. It's just interesting to look at it from a structural standpoint of maybe how you can avoid it moving forward in regular return to game scenarios,
Yes.
return to play scenarios. This is not a regular return to play scenario. This is Willis Reed limping out situation. There's no way he wasn't going to play last night, and it just sucks that it happened.
Yeah, I would have done the same thing, and I think you would have done the same thing. And you know this as well as I do. The one thing I'm certain of when it comes to sports is you don't know if you're going to get another look at it like that in a Game 7.
No.
So how can you pass that up?
You can't.
No.
You can't.
No.
You absolutely cannot. Go talk to Dan Marino, who thought his first, wasn't he in the Super Bowl in his rookie year? Or
I think it was like year number 2. Yeah, year 2, and he thought, oh, I'll get back.
Be back there. Yeah, I'll be back. Never know. And especially we've been kind of treating the Pacers as, maybe we went a little too far in thinking they were, complete and total, like an anomaly.
Yeah.
But they're certainly not a team that you can just plan on being back.
Yeah.
So, no question he's playing last night. And what sucks, too, is the start he got off to. 3 threes in the first 5
He
minutes.
looked great.
I mean, he was ready to go. And I was on the radio before the game, and my pick of the night was, and not like I got some crystal ball, but I said Halliburton's going. His over/under was 2.5 threes. He had that in 5 minutes. I didn't think he'd do it that quick, but I said this is a lock. This guy is a big stage player.
Yeah.
He reminds me so much of Trae Young in this way, where like he could be flawed. Maybe he's not the best defensive player. There's a lot of games he might put up 12 points, but like if it's big stage, Trae Young, Tyrese, how there's certain guys that like they're gonna rise. There was no question in my mind Halliburton was going to be huge last night. And he started off with every indication that he was going to follow through on that. He was in for a massive game, and the Thunder were in for a hell of a fight.
It's Brad Bach and CBS Sports here on the Rip City Drive. Great insight. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gets the Finals MVP. He won the league MVP throughout the regular season. He's also got a scoring title. What's the significance of the year that he put together?
Fourth guy in history to do that, to win all three of those things in the same year with Jordan, Shaq. Who's the other ones? Jordan, Shaq.
Is it Kareem?
I can't. Yeah, it is Kareem.
Yeah.
So you're talking about some major company. His 32.7, and I know this, I'm looking at this 50-page research packet that my research team sent me right now, but 32.7 points per game this year, that's the highest single-season point total for any player on a championship team. He led the league in 20-point games, 95 of them. That's tied for first all-time. He led the league in 30-point games, 40-point games, 50-point games. There's so many bullet points on this thing. It's unbelievable the season he had. This is to say nothing of him ranking sixth, I think, in steals per game. He was second in total steals in the postseason and the playoffs, so he's doing it on both ends. This is an all-time season. I think it's too early to put Shai into the all-time player category, but from an all-time season standpoint, he's up there. What he did this season, he's the best driver in the game. He's a mid-range madman, and what he can do offensively in terms of getting to the foul line, call him a merchant, call him whatever you want. It's a three-level attack that now that he's got that step-back three in his arsenal where he's the best driver in the league, you've got to lay off, and now he's got that smooth step-back. He's what he did this season is it's unprecedented in a lot of ways. It really is. It's not hyperbole to say that. He did things this year, multiple things. He's third all-time in total finals points, 215 total finals points. LeBron had 218 in 2015, I believe, and Shaq had 228 in 2000. That's it. Those are the only people that have ever scored more points in a finals series. So he just was unbelievable all season. What I take from this is that the Thunder, and this is sort of deviating off of just Shai individually, but I think maybe a lot of us, or I know I did, maybe overestimated the ceiling of the Thunder team. In other words, maybe the gap between them and the second best team wasn't as much as I know I was saying, and a lot of people thought. But the floor was so high. They were going to be so good every game. Now, if they're making their threes, which, as was proven in these playoffs, is a night-to-night thing, and more times than not, they're not making them. When they're making them, they become an all-time great team. But the floor is so high because even when they're not making them, for two reasons: elite defense, it's there every night, and then Shai. It is such a dependable source of offense to have this guy that even on your worst nights as a team, nobody can make a shot, you're turning it over, blah, blah, blah. The other team is red hot, all this stuff. No matter what, you've got an elite defense and an elite scorer. And it made the Thunder's floor so high that, even on your best game, you just kind of could stay even with them. And heaven forbid if they were making their threes, then it was a blowout. But I just think that's kind of how I would surmise SGA's impact, is that the team had so much margin for error with its shooting because SGA was so dependable as a scorer.
We're talking with Brad Bachman, CBS Sports. All right, Kevin Durant is on his way to Houston. The Suns get Jalen Green. They get Dylan Brooks. They get the number 10 pick in this year's draft and a whole bushel of second-round picks. I'm excited to see Durant in a Rocket uniform. What's your take on this deal?
Oh yeah, I love it from the Rockets standpoint. I mean, they don't lose any of their. I mean, they lose Dylan Brooks, who was a part of their defense, but they don't lose that nasty defensive personnel. And so it's still got Eason. They still got Amen Thompson. They still got all these guys. Van Vliet can pressure the ball. They've still got the rim protection in Adams. So Durant walks into a situation where the defense is covered. And this is an offense. He's the missing piece. He's the offense that this team. Now they were, I think, 12th overall offense, but that's a little bit deceiving. Don't have the go-to scorer, or didn't have it. They were 9th in isolations this year. So this is a team that likes to isolate. They were 27th in points per possession on isolations. They just couldn't do it very well. Now they got one of the best isolation players in the league. So he fits right into Ime Udoka's offensive philosophy, and he can add length defensively as well, and only add to what they do on that end of the court. So they're primed. I think from a legacy standpoint, it's perfect for KD because he doesn't join another superstar. He is in line for the lion's share of the credit if they actually do pull this thing off. And so I think that, after jumping from Steph Curry to Kyrie and Harden to Booker and Phoenix, he goes to a team that's ready-made to win, but actually doesn't have that second superstar that it, from a perception standpoint, feels like he's joining. So I think it's a perfect match. I think they're going to be really good. And also kudos to Durant for, he put San Antonio as a team he would be willing to go to. He's willing to stay in the West. If you look at the Eastern Conference next year, I like calling it a JV conference. It might be a junior high conference next year. Halliburton's out, Tatum's out. Who knows about the Sixers? The Knicks might be the best team in the conference next year. So it's like, just go East and you've got a way better shot. But he was like, he's doing this off where he wants to live, where he wants to play, so he stays in the gauntlet that is the Western Conference. I think he'll get points for that. From what the Suns got back, I think without having any leverage, everyone knew they had to trade KD. They got the number 10 overall pick. That's good. They get depth. They get 2 rotational players in Green and Brooks, and Green's the swing player here. Either he becomes sort of a go-to scorer that he is on a lot of nights but hasn't shown to be consistently. If he becomes that, then he's on a 3-year, $100 million contract. It's bargain Ben if he becomes that player. And if he doesn't, this is a guy that could easily probably be flipped for more assets. So now you get even more out of the Durant deal. So I actually thought, the Suns definitely got the wrong end of it because they went all in on Durant and kind of had to take a long walk back to the dugout on that one. But for the situation they were actually in, number 10 overall, Brooks and Green, you add depth to a team that desperately needed it, and you get a flippable asset in Green moving forward if he plays well and ups his value, or plays so well that you keep him and he becomes a bargain contract. So, but from Houston's standpoint, man, look, they replaced Dillon Brooks with Kevin Durant, and they have Reed Shepherd ready to step right in for Jalen Green. And they keep all of Phoenix's future draft picks, by the way. So they have it in 27 and 29, I believe. So if the Suns do go in the tank and they have to trade Booker and Green becomes their guy, who owns the Suns' future? Houston. So major score for the Rockets.
Awesome. I got 2 more questions for you. Speaking of the West being tough, if you were Sam Presti, how would you tinker with the Thunder to put them in a position to go back-to-back? Because we thought Denver might do it. We thought Boston would do it. They did not. What would you do if you were Sam Presti?
Nothing. He's done the work. What you need to do is go back to back. Is to have the depth because they had a, relative to everyone else, didn't have like the major injury. Only had Chet for 32 games this year, but during the playoffs, they stayed relatively healthy and they were super deep. So now that if they do have if it doesn't go quite as lucky next year, they have the depth to withstand it. They have lineup versatility. And here's the key. All along, we've been waiting for this trade. Like, when's Sam Presti going to go in? Prior to the Thunder actually winning it 2 years ago, they got all these draft picks. They got all this young talent, just like Houston, really. But when are they going to go all in and make their Durant trade? Well, they never did it. And by preserving all of those draft picks, a league-high 13 number 1 picks between now and 2031, what does that give them access to? Cheap labor. And that's what it's all about moving forward. They have their 3 stars in place, Shea, Jalen, and Chet. Shea's the only one on a max contract right now. Eventually, Chet and Jalen will be on a max contract. And when that happens and their salary cap increases and they have the threat of the second apron and all the penalties that come with that, they are going to need cheap labor to keep that depth. They're going to start losing guys around the edges, maybe an Aaron Wiggins, maybe a Caruso, whoever. They're going to have cheap labor to replace it so that they don't become a top-heavy team with no depth, which we know doesn't work. So he has that depth in place with those 13 first-round picks that he's acquired between now and 2031. Just keep it in place. I don't think you're going to see OKC make any big swings, go send 3 or 4 picks out for someone. They're going to keep those picks for cheap labor moving forward. And, look, they've got guys on bargain deals. Caruso's on a bargain deal. Wiggins is on a seriously bargain deal. It's a descending – this guy would be a starter. Aaron Wiggins would be a starter on 3/4 of the teams in the league. He's like the 8th or 9th man for the Thunder. He's on a descending annual value contract. Sam Presti has set this thing up so well that they talk about doing your work early in the NBA. He did his work early. Now, for the next 2 years, it's like, don't screw it up.
All right, final question for you. Draft is coming up on Wednesday. Shortly thereafter, at the beginning of July, we get into that free agency with the new league year. You cover it all, so I'm interested to know, like, what's the main storyline you're following over the next week and a half?
It's interesting because free agency has kind of been hijacked because all these teams that stockpiled cap space for all these years, like 2 years ahead of Giannis becoming a free agent or whoever was on the radar. And then all these guys just started signing extensions with their team to lock in money and more years and all these things. And so everybody moves via trade now. And so I'm going to be really interested. I think draft night could be pretty interesting in terms of the number of draft picks that trade places and the number of players that end up trading places. Because from a free agency standpoint, look, there's only one team with max cap space. It's the Nets. I think there's 14 teams with mid-level exceptions. And so you're going to be seeing those middle-tier players that are in line for either a taxpayer or non-taxpayer middle-level exception, like 12 to 14 million or 5 for the taxpayers. Those are the guys that you're going to be seeing sign free agent contracts. It's not going to be the big players. And so I think it's actually from a marquee standpoint, it's kind of fixing to be a sort of a dead free agency period. I'm more interested in draft night to see who kind of gets the ball rolling on trades. That's the way that players trade teams now is the hoarding cap space doesn't do it. So what did teams do? They stopped hoarding cap space, and now nobody has any. So all these guys we're talking about with like player options, Harden and LeBron, and we said, what are they going to do? Well, of course they're going to sign it. Where are they going to go? Nobody has any cap space. So you're going to see a largely, I think we should rename the free agency period like mid-level madness. It's going to be a big mid-level madness.
All right, you got to read him at CBS Sports. He's got a great piece on the Halliburton Achilles injury. He's got a full breakdown on the Durant trade to the Houston Rockets. He's Brad Botkin from CBS Sports. I appreciate your time. I'll let you get back to that ridiculous packet that research and development sent over to you. I hope you enjoy that.
Dude, it's insane. I think there's like cures for diseases in this thing.
Thanks, Brad.
All right.
All right, big thanks to Brad Botkin, CBS Sports. He is an absolute one-of-a-kind. Full breakdown there. What did he call it? Mid-level madness. That's what he thinks you should. They should change the name of the free agency period too. I mean, that's different. That second apron has changed everything, and a great breakdown on the Achilles injuries as well, and the miles traveled. How much more movement these guys have out there on the floor. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive. Chris Burkhardt is coming up at the top of the hour with Courtside Monday, and it's going to be a big one because we got the draft coming up on Wednesday. Our coverage will kick off at 3 from Dr. Jax. Rip City Drive up until 4:30. Travis Demers and Francis Williams will anchor coverage for the draft the rest of the evening from 4:30 until the end of the first round with Joe Cronin's press conference. And it's all here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. The Blazers Block Party Draft Edition is going to be out at the Rose Quarter Commons. You can stop by our booth and enter for your chance to win a sweet prize pack with 4 Coors Light silver seats to an upcoming game this year where you get a chance to sit in the captain's chairs with the cold rail technology to keep your Coors Light chilled and phone chargers. Also a Scoot Henderson autographed jersey and a signed Blazers pennant. It's all going to be there Wednesday for the Blazers Block Party Draft Edition and our coverage starting at 3. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, just a reminder, Chris Burkhart is coming up next with Blazers Courtside, and it's going to go from 6 until 7. He'll kind of set the table for you. As always, you can listen to us on our free iHeartRadio app. You can listen live, you can stream the show, and obviously podcast it right there. I would recommend go back and listen to Francis Williams, who joined the show and gave us some unique insight on the NBA draft, which is coming up on Wednesday. And Chris Burkhart will go in depth on the NBA Finals and the draft on Courtside coming up here in just a couple of minutes. Now, a reminder of what's going on Wednesday, a couple of different things. One, our coverage will start at 3, and the Rip City Drive will go from 3 until 4:30. Chris Burkhart's going to be involved. Sean Hyken's going to be involved. And we're going to be live at Dr. Jack's from 3 until 4:30. At 4:30, Travis Demers, the voice of your Portland Trailblazers, will take over. He'll be joined by Francis Williams, and they're going to anchor the coverage throughout the entire first round of the NBA draft, including when the Trailblazers select at number 11. And they'll have Joe Cronin's press conference at the end of the evening. So we're going to have you covered on air from 3 all the way up until 9 o'clock or so, or whenever Joe Cronin's press conference is after the final round. And then the Trailblazers are going to kick off their block party at the Rose Quarter Commons Draft Edition, 4:30 Wednesday. So you want to come down. They'll have some blow-up games, including Pop-A-Shot and Tic-Tac-Toe. They're going to have DJ OG1 on hand. There's going to be sampling, including Coors Light, inside of Dr. Jack's. And you can stop by to enter to win our Trailblazers prize pack, which is 4 Coors Light Silver Seats to an upcoming game this season. So you can sit and enjoy a game in style, an autographed Scoot Henderson Trailblazers jersey, and a signed Blazer pennant. That's the prize pack, and that's what you can expect on Wednesday. So come out and join us, Trailblazers Block Party Draft Edition, Wednesday from the Rose Quarter Commons. Our coverage will start at 3 from Dr. Jack's, and then Travis Demers and Francis Williams will take over at 4:30. And then Chris Burkhart, Sean Hyken will be out at the Blazers practice facility covering the entirety of the first round of the draft. Also, coming up on Thursday morning, you're going to get a special AM edition of me, a special Rip City Drive in the morning from 7 to 9 with follow-up coverage on the first round of the NBA draft. That's going to do it for me. Big thanks to Michael Shacker, Francis Williams, and Brad Botkin. Be sure to keep it here. Chris Burkhart has Blazers Courtside coming up next here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio.